University, or Fetishized State University. Shout out to all the poverty scholars all over Mama Earth. But when I was invited down to USC, shout out to Jess Hoffman, one of our Solidarity family.
Yes.
Right, and Daria, one of our new Solidarity family, who's also a poverty scholar who's infiltrated that institution. I was down there, and this wealthy white woman who was the head of the Department of Homelessness, which sounds like some weird Kafka thing, and as Mama D would say, has never missed a meal, was somehow realized that she needs to bring us in, right? She's like, oh, you guys just need to come back, and blah, 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 blah. And then she gave me her card, and I realized at that moment that my mom was working from the other side, because this woman, again, absolutely no experience, personal experience with poverty, was heading up a whole department at USC called the Department of Homelessness. Right? How idiotic is that? I'm sorry, from a poverty scholar perspective, all love to y'all with good hearts, but seriously, that's some violence, because that's perpetrating the about us without us nation, and it's perpetrating the ways that us poor folks get harmed in these plantation prisons and these plantation schools, right? In these systems that are there to incarcerate and perpetrate on every poor person they get. But anyway, it was interesting to me because it reminded me what Mama used to say. To pass your LCSW test, which is one of the hardest ones, it's almost like getting an MD. It's extremely hard. It's like counseling psych. Anyway, to pass it, you had to correlate whatever your thesis was, in other words, like your big ending project, with a theory, a heteropatriarchal theory rooted in Jung or Freud.
Of course. Right?
Two white men, right? It's never had missed a meal either. And continues to make more perpetrated about us without us theory. But anyway, and my mom always used to say, as poor folks, as indigenous peoples, as black and brown peoples, those theories don't apply, right? Which is why she did the mother's issue, which is why she created an original theory called motherism, which is why she did the interview and the co-piece with Dr. Wade Nobles. Shout out to Dr. Nobles. Because black psychology says that we all have different deep structures, that applying this white science to our lives, our bodies, our abilities, and our struggles makes no sense. In fact, it's an act of violence. So the powerful thing, I think, that Mama's trying to make happen is to bring poverty scholarship in as a valid theory. I'm not even playing. If you want to talk about some deep infiltration, talk about throwing that DSM out and putting the PSM, Poverty Scholarship Manifesto.
Yes, it's about time. We're on this academic point here. It's just amazing, it's just amazing how academics think that you can, just travel with no money and just, do all the things that you need to do just to get there and present on your own dime. It's just amazing. I've been doing this college thing for 21 years. It's just amazing that, they think that you could just, do everything on your own dime, and we have to wait months to get paid for our work.
Yeah. Well, that's because they don't value our work. I'm just saying. I mean, the other reality is that they're not rooted in poverty scholarship. So they think that those, checks that they give us are just like they are when they give them to people who have money. It's not what we live on. So when Leroy didn't get the check from a university that will remain unnamed, one of many, that means he didn't have no food. For real, for real. And similarly, thanks to the community reparations and the interdependence of Poor Magazine and Hopefulness and Decolonize, we got redistribution of bougie food, so our brother and myself get to eat. But the reality is, that check is what we live on, right? And when I go out in academia, the check that we getting for those gigs is going directly to keep Homefulness building. Right now, we're scared, honestly, because we got hit with more permit gangsters. We just found out that the 4 townhouses, mama houses that aren't even built yet, they're hitting us with $120 a month just for the privilege to have a water meter. So
and nobody's living in there yet.
Right, exactly.
It's not even built yet.
Exactly. So that same kind of not mentality, right, that we don't really need this money. That's what oftentimes those academia situations come from. And so, you know, all love for any academics watching. It's not that you should like, oh, don't invite them anymore. No, what we're saying is change your values and change your systems so that poor folks can actually, you know, have this access. Because to be really real, having myself and Leroy Moore wait, you know, 60, 90, 120 days for a check makes no sense. That cash should be waiting for him when he goes back east, like for real.
Yeah, and also, you know, beyond the checks, you know, it's taking our work and our theory and institutionalize it in the colleges, because you guys have the power to do it.
That's right.
You know, we're just there for 1 or 2 days and we go back home.
That's right.
But you guys have the power to do it with us. To make a class about poor people, to make a class about black disabled people, you know. But you gotta do it with us, you know.
Yeah, you heard it. Poverty studies. It doesn't exist except in weird situations
Like
when,
Stanford.
right, like the Stanford Endowment on Poverty, which is an oxymoron in itself, because it's being supported by exploited, bloodstained dollars, never redistributed to fellow poverty scholars. So challenge to Stanford. Stop acting more about us without us. Invite us in, not just for take the poor people to lunch, give us a Safeway card, you know, have us speak for an hour. Ooh, we're so excited we got to speak at Stanford. Woo! No. Have us co-create the class like one of our powerful Solidarity family members, Cecilia, did over at UC Berkeley. Co-creating the entire semester's curriculum and then us teaching it. There's a thought. Because really, guess what? The concept of more ethnography, psychology, and archaeology about us without us is just, again, more perpetration of violence. So we always say, make space on the bench, Howard Zinn and Paulo Freire, because this time, the population's bringing the popular education.
Yes. KEXU 96.1 FM right here in East Oakland.
Oh.